All right, welcome back everyone for another deep dive. You know how we do things around here. Today, we are tackling a question that has, well, let's just say, it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Does God exist?
It's one of those questions that never really goes away, does it?
Nope, definitely not. And lucky for us, we've got this really interesting text we're diving into that lays out some, classic arguments for God's existence.
Should be a good one. I always find these arguments fascinating, even if they don't prove anything for sure.
Right, we're not going to come out of this with a definitive answer, are we? But even just thinking about these arguments, looking at them from different sides, I think that's what makes it so interesting.
Oh, for sure. And just to kind of set the stage here, right off the bat, our source says that there's no hard scientific proof when it comes to proving God exists.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge that up front. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not dealing with something you could just test in a lab.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean we can't have a really good conversation about it. Like, the fact that there's no scientific proof, it actually opens up the door for these philosophical arguments, which are, in their own way, super compelling.
Okay, so let's jump into the first one, the cosmological argument.
Okay, yeah.
So this is basically saying that everything we see around us, the trees, the stars, this microphone, all of it, it had to come from somewhere, right?
Right.
Everything has a cause. And if you follow that logic all the way back,
Yeah.
it means the universe itself had to have a cause.
And that cause, that very first cause that got everything going, that's what a lot of folks identify with God.
Okay, so imagine a line of dominoes all set up.
Yeah, classic example, right?
Exactly. Each domino falls because the one before it knocked it over.
Yeah.
But then you got to ask,
Yeah.
what made that very first domino fall?
Right, gotta have something to start the chain reaction.
Exactly. And the cosmological argument says that the first domino has to be something outside of the chain reaction itself, something that exists on its own, that's eternal, and doesn't need a cause.
You got it.
Makes you think.
Yeah, definitely does.
All right, what about this next one? The teleological argument. Or sometimes it's called the design argument.
Ah, yeah, this one's fun.
I'm kind of getting that vibe from you. So this one, it's all about the order and the complexity of the universe, like how everything fits together so precisely, especially when you think about how life exists.
Okay, yeah, and one of the big things people talk about with this is this concept of fine-tuning, right? So there are all these physical constants in the universe, like the force of gravity or the speed of light. And if those constants were even a tiny bit different, just a smidge,
Yeah.
well, stars and planets wouldn't form the way they do. Life as we know it just wouldn't be possible. Yeah, it's wild. So the question is it just a crazy coincidence that all these constants are just right for life to exist? Or was it, intentionally designed that way?
Intentional design. I mean, that's a big question.
It is a huge question. And this argument doesn't give us a definite answer, but it definitely gets you thinking. It really makes you think about the nature of the universe and the possibility of some kind of designer behind it all.
It does. Okay, let's keep this train rolling. Next up, we've got the moral argument. This one digs into that feeling we all have about right and wrong. That sense of morality.
Oh, yeah, the moral compass.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the moral argument basically says that this universal sense of right and wrong, like most people seem to agree that some things are just plain wrong, it suggests that this points to some kind of moral lawgiver. And a lot of times people associate that lawgiver with,
God.
yeah,
It's like asking, where does our sense of morality come from? Is it just something we made up as a society? Or is there something deeper going on, something built into the fabric of reality?
yeah, did we just make up the rules or are there actual rules to the universe?
Exactly. And this argument is saying that for there to be real objective right and wrong, you got to have a divine source. That's what sets the standard.
Interesting. So it's like saying without a higher power, we wouldn't know which way is up, morally speaking.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, so we've talked about the universe needing a cause and the universe seeming designed, and then there's this idea of morality needing a source. But what about people who say they've had actual experiences that convince them God exists? Our text talks about religious experiences too.
Oh, absolutely. And, science can't really measure those experiences, but they're incredibly powerful for the people who have them. And you see these kinds of experiences across cultures and throughout history.
Yeah, it's not like they're a new thing.
Yeah. Definitely not. And they're often really hard to describe, with words, but they often point to this, connection with something bigger than themselves, something beyond the everyday world.
Right. And even though they're subjective, you can't deny the impact they have on people's lives, right?
For sure.
Okay, and then there's the last one.
Mhm.
This one, I'll be honest, it always kind of twists my brain a little bit. It's the ontological argument.
Yes. This one is a bit more abstract and philosophical, for sure. But I can walk you through it.
Okay, give it your best shot.
All right, so it starts with this idea of a perfect being, a being that has, like, all the best qualities imaginable.
Okay, I'm picturing like the ultimate being.
Exactly. And the argument says that existence itself is a perfection. Like, wouldn't it be better to exist than to not exist?
I mean, yeah, I think so.
So the logic goes, if you have this perfect being, this being with all possible perfections, it can't be lacking in existence. Therefore, a truly perfect being has to exist in reality.
Okay, I get it. Sort of. It's definitely a brain teaser.
Yeah. Haha, it is. It's been debated for centuries.
So there you have it. 5 big arguments for God's existence.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, none of them are slam dunks, but they all give us something to think about, don't they?
Absolutely. I think what I find most interesting about them is how they all, in their own way, show this deep human desire to understand the universe and where we fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whether we're trying to find the ultimate cause of everything, or we're in awe of how perfectly the universe seems to work, or we're trying to figure out where our sense of right and wrong comes from, all these arguments are kind of about our search for meaning.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about finding the answers, it's about like the journey of asking these questions.
Exactly, and that's what I love about philosophy. And on that note, I have a question for you, our listeners, to chew on. Imagine you're designing a museum exhibit, right? And this exhibit is all about the arguments for and against the existence of God. What would you put in it? How would you make these really complex ideas come to life?
Ooh, that's a good one. And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on another deep dive.
Until next time.